What's going on, Metropolitans? While the Juan Soto sweepstakes continues to roll on today's edition of Mets Digest, we're talking about the prospects of another free agent making his way to Queens. Corbin Burnes, we know he wanted pitching. Well, is Corbin Burnes fit in the squad? Well, a report from Jim Bowden makes us all wonder. What is going on, everybody? My name is Flobo Boyce, and you are locked in to Mets Digest, your one-stop shop for Mets content all around the globe. Thank you so much for rocking with us and the channel. Myself, alongside Mike D'Angelo, working tirelessly through the silly season, hot stove season, whatever you want to call it, to make sure you are in the know when things break involving the New York Mets. So if you do me a quick favor, watching this right now, do us a favor, hit that subscribe button, like the video, share the video. Don't be part of that not subscribe crew, that 78.6%. You don't want to do that. Do us a favor and subscribe to make sure you're the first to know. Yeah, like I'm saying, it is already going to be going crazy when it comes to the hot stove with the New York Mets. A lot of things, a lot of expectations are now on the team, and so I won't belabor the point, but let's get into it. This is about Corbin Burnes, one of the bigger free agents available now this offseason. We're trying to see about the prospects of them coming over to New York. And it's all started a couple days ago because even though we needed the pitching and really we haven't really decided, or we don't really know if Sean Manaea or Luis Severino are going to take that qualifying offer of $21.05 million for next season. We still want to reload on the pitching side as best as we can. But Jim Bowden over at The Athletic, who does have some front office experience, had a little bit of a playful thought that kind of set the Mets rumor mill on fire. I'm going to give you the original quote. This comes from The Athletic, who Jim Bowden is a region contributor, about the prospect of Corbin Burnes coming from Baltimore to Queens. He says, "Put your seatbelt on. Steve Cohen is the wealthiest of the 30 MLB owners, and he's ready to spend. Mets president of baseball operations, David Stearns, has the keys and ample funds to work with. Indeed, he has been doing interviews for MLB Radio, and that's available on the Mets YouTube channel." The Mets will be chasing Corbin Burnes and every other top starting pitcher on the market. They'll be involved in the Juan Soto sweepstakes, which we've been covering pretty much daily here at Mets Digest. They'll be looking to bring back Pete Alonso while pursuing similar talents on the open market. Now, if you're a Mets fan, the second half of the season and the playoff run were fun, a lot of fun, but this offseason has a chance to be even better. Looks pretty much surface level, but it was interesting that Burnes was mentioned by name because the idea was, who are we going to get to fill in that backside? And we don't need the backside of our rotation. Kodai Senga still under contract. He will be part of the equation. As to what level, we don't know. Is he still an ace? We don't know. And we already mentioned about Sean Manaea and Luis Severino. Right now, currently, they have a couple days to decide whether or not they're going to accept that qualifying offer to be part of the rotation next year. That said, even if they both said that they were down, you really have a responsibility to load up on some arms and make yourself a real threat. Take a look at the season-long stats of Corbin Burnes. I mean, solid stuff across the board. Any team would probably give an appendage, a left arm or so, to be in the Corbin Burnes sweepstakes, even though it's not as glamorous as the Juan Soto sweepstakes as it is right now. Just up and down. Any team will want to get themselves in that conversation. The Mets are no different, especially because not only do we have the richest owner in sports and we have so many millions of dollars coming off the books, we also have a desire to get better with the upcoming season. I mean, that ERA sub 3, I mean, that alone is worth the price of admission. So one of the things I really realized, though, when it comes to that is like how exactly would you slot in there? If you had a chance to have Corbin Burnes on the team, where would you put him in the rotation? Number 1, number 2, 3, 4, 5, you let me know in the comments below. And so going forward about the numbers, digging deep when it comes to the numbers, got to give a shout out to MLB.com by way of sporting news that had a little bit of more of an insight of the role of what Corbin Burnes could provide for the team based on last year's performance. It says, though the Mets finished second among our voters in the Blake Snell race, this is them quoting MLB.com, they check in as the most popular landing spot for Burnes. MLB.com added, over the past 4 seasons, Burnes ranks 4th in innings pitched, 2nd in strikeouts, 3rd in whip, and 4th in ERA. Again, all pretty solid across the 7-year big league career. Burnes has a 3.9 ERA with 4 All-Star nods and a Cy Young Award. And we love trophies, do we not? Those are all... Look, I'm going to sell you on how important it would be to add the rotation. The question is whether or not to get them done. Now, you can argue that maybe someone like a Blake Snell wouldn't be a higher priority because he is a lefty, but you let us know if you had the chance of who would you pull the trigger on first to fill out that rotation. SNY TV takes us one step further because even though the Mets are in the contention for acquiring Burnes' services, obviously someone at Burnes' caliber isn't the only one in town. The Baltimore Orioles do have a priority of making sure Corbin Burnes resides, but there's one more team that I hadn't thought about that SNY TV has. Danny Abriano writes, one concern here could be Burnes' tumbling strikeout rate, which has been decreasing steadily over 2022, but as he prepares for his age 30 season, he's as good as it gets. Enter the Tigers, who have proven in the past they have the stomach to spend big, but they actually cite Miguel Cabrera as a recent example, and can make themselves an AL Central favorite by pairing Burnes with the electric left-hander Turk Skubal. So, imagine that lineup. I mean, look, what's best for baseball is them signing with the Mets, of course, but a Tiger team that acquires Burnes might be an other level threat on the other side with the junior circuit, so of course there's going to be a hot market for that. What say you, though? Look, you and I both know having someone on Burnes' ilk on the team would be great, but would you try to make that a priority? Or would you try to do something a little bit more under the radar? Is it about superstar signings? I know there's a school of thought that says, look, we tried the big names and free agents in 2022. And yes, Soto was a special case because he's Juan freaking Soto. Do we need to go for the big brand names? Maybe we can build some arms up underneath the radar. We'd love to hear your thoughts about that. And before we get out of here, though, I saw something when it comes to the whole Pete Alonso situation. If you've been following the Pete Alonso situation about whether or not he's going to stay, he's going to go, ultimately that has to be worked out. But the Mets have been tied to good plan Bs and Cs. If that were to be the case, the Willy Adames note about whether or not Willy Adames is willing to move off his number one position of shortstop to play second or third, and so they can rejigger the infield, making the impact of Pete Alonso's departure not as big, has really fired up Mets Twitter. But I saw this thing from Heavy.com that really, the idea of what happens if Vladimir Guerrero would be sent over to the New York Mets. This is actually a proposed fantasy trade. I'm sure the Toronto Blue Jays will have something to say about this, but MLB Analysis, that's actually the original source of this that got reposted by Heavy.com, postulates what it would take to take someone like Vladimir Guerrero, who is younger than Pete Alonso, over to Queens. He says, Anthony McCarron from MLB.com says, with some baseball tonight with New York, who proposed a blockbuster deal that would see the Mets acquire Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Check this out from Toronto Blue Jays. Mets would acquire Vladimir Guerrero Jr. in exchange for Jet Williams, Ryan Clifford, and Jeff McNeil. Wow. Now, I understand if you are a long-term watcher of Mets Digest, one of the more popular videos over the past couple of weeks was that proposed trade that would have sent Jeff McNeil to Arizona for Jordan Montgomery. Obviously, that doesn't seem to be the case, but having Vladimir Guerrero on the New York Mets would be amazing for any metric, save for vibes, right? Because Pete Alonso is pretty much in the DNA for that team. But on the Mets side, giving up Clifford, Jet Williams, and Jeff McNeil based on last year's performance isn't that bad if you were to get someone along the lines of Vladimir Guerrero Jr. I'm sure Toronto would laugh this trade out of the building, but I wanted to show you this. Well, again, it's from Anthony McCann from MLB.com by way of a hat tip to Heavy.com that had mentioned this. I want your opinions on this one as well. Would you give up two prospects and a utility infielder, outfielder in Jeff McNeil for the possibility of one of the best in the league at his position at Vladimir Guerrero Jr.? I'm dying to see what you think. Congratulations. you hit the end of the video. This has been Mets Digest. My name is Flobo Boyce, and yeah, it's going to be a crazy time in the next couple days. Rumors are going to be swirling, but I try to make sure that we have everything in order and with the sources so we can all do our own research because, we don't want to do the whole clickbait thing. That is it for me. Again, I read all the comments. Thank you so much. And until next time, as always, it's LGM to the bitter end.